Finally, we have a deal between the ANC and the DA for a government of national unity. Well, really, the cabinet ministries are the things that they have agreed upon. I don't know if they've agreed upon a direction as of yet, but we will see. So far, however, we have received at least a deal between these two parties, which shows that it's mostly these parties that are in charge of this GNU, and I think that was to be expected. So everybody else just has to sort of go along with whatever these parties decide is the agenda. But the breakthrough news right now is that the ANC has finally managed to hammer out a deal with the DA. The DA settled on 6 key ministries, those 6 being, let's see if I can do this by heart: Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Basic Education, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, Ministry of Public Works and Infrastructure, Ministry of Communication and Technologies, and that's it. Yeah, that's 6. I don't know, I said that like I was trying to remember something else, but yeah, those are the 6. How do I feel about that? I wonder if being in charge of technologies and communication, or communication and technologies, I don't really remember how it goes, means that they're going to be in charge of ICASA. But if they're in charge of ICASA, maybe they might make the whole Starlink thing legal in South Africa finally. Who knows? Also, though, them taking the Ministry of Forestry, Fishery and Environment, yeah, I don't know exactly where the DA stands in terms of environmental protections. I confess to be quite unaware of their particular policy as far as that specific issue is concerned, but I don't think that they have the best environmental protections. I mean, not a lot of free marketeers tend to have strong environmental protection concerns. Maybe they actually do care about the environment, and I'm just not aware of that yet. So if that is the case, please let me know in the comment section. Then I'm interested to see what they do with public works and infrastructure. I, of course, want there to be greater public works and infrastructure, but the DA are a free market type of party. So what exactly is going to be their approach here? If they do increase infrastructure and public works, then that will be a clear repudiation, at least of their position on ideological grounds, because it would be proof that they need the infrastructure of the state's power in order to produce fertile ground for businesses to actually engage in enterprise. So that will be a concession of sorts as far as their ideology is concerned, because tomorrow you might say, hey, what do you mean free markets? You yourselves were the ones that were involved in paving the way for the markets to exist by way of using state resources to produce public works and infrastructure, upon which industry and business can actually thrive. So what do you mean by free markets from henceforth? But if they also defund it and don't actually sponsor this particular ministry, if they actually start cutting costs and bleeding it dry, then people will be able to see that and will say, hey, we can see that this ministry is dilapidating under you. So either way, it's going to be a tough thing for the DA, I think, to justify for different reasons, whether they do well or not in this particular ministry. So I'll be keeping a close eye on that to see what exactly they try to do with it. So a quick recap of how we got here. The ANC, in a very historic election, dropped all the way to 40%. 40%. Right now, I still can't believe it. I still can't believe that the ANC majority, which has stood for 30 years, has dissipated. I mean, 15 points were removed just like that in one election. That's immense. That is immense. Wait, is it 15 or 17? Somewhere there, though. But that is a huge deficit that they have incurred. Immense. The DA didn't really do anything. They stood where they were, where they've been for a long time, and reportedly where they are content being. I think they are just fine being right where they are. The EFF, they lost a point back to single digits, and we have a new player in town. The new third biggest party is, of course, the MK, which is Zuma's party. So that's how we got here. We got to a place where we needed all of these parties. None of them have a majority. They have to come together and try to form a government. This this has been difficult to do. It has taken so long, embarrassingly long, for a country that calls itself the Rainbow Nation. And in the midst of all of this, there's been accusations of racism, and ministers in parliament have information about them has resurfaced where they have gone on racist tirades and things of this nature, others in blackface, others saying all types of things in relation to white people and Johan Rupert and all these sorts of things. So it's been a bit of a mess to really get to this point, and it's been quite a specifically embarrassing mess for a rainbow nation that believes that we are now engaging in a greater sense of consensus building, a greater sense of community building in relationship to this government of national unity, right? But of course, like most South Africans, I want to be optimistic about this. We need as many wins as we can possibly get. I want to be optimistic. The thing that I most especially want to be optimistic about is that this will last. This thing of the ANC not having a majority and us having to go into either coalitions or governments of national unity and things of this nature, I want that to last because I do believe that that's the best way to lead a country as diverse as South Africa. But I don't know if it will indeed last. I don't know if Cyril Ramaphosa leaves and a certain faction of the ANC is fine to reabsorb Jacob Zuma, who never surrendered his membership from the ANC, if that will lead to a different outcome in future elections. I really don't know, and that's quite concerning. I do feel as though this loss for the ANC is quite precarious. It's not yet set in stone, but this very much could be, and I hope it is, the beginning of a type of politics in South Africa that is just based on coalition governments and consensus building. We will see. We will have to see. We in South Africa we feed off of hope. It's the substance that keeps us ticking and running. So of course I'm hopeful. This is indicative of something actually profound and important. I hope that this is the beginning of genuine collaboration amongst South Africans to build a better nation on the basis that we all have a shared destiny. I do have to say, this has been historic. This entire election cycle, this entire election run has been something that I just I could not have imagined it. If anything, I thought maybe something like this might happen within the next election cycle, the 2029. I thought that's when a change this substantial could take place. I wasn't expecting it to happen now. Hopefully that is a sign of more things to come. Hopefully our generation will start becoming also more politically emboldened to be engaged, to take the reins and to help write history, because not enough of us voted in this last election. But I do hope this will galvanize us. I do hope this will motivate us to actually see politics as something that we have to take a part in, to actually see that this is history in the making and we get the choice, the chance, the opportunity, the privilege to shape it. But I have to admit, I am being cautiously optimistic. I can't just throw myself into the positive euphoria of 1995, for instance, because we know that as soon as that dissipated, there was a lot of ugly things in the underbelly of South Africa that had not been addressed, that were just painted over. So I think there are still some very substantial things that we have to get right, that we can't just paper over with the energy of positivity alone. We do have to engage in genuine conversations of genuine importance to actually terraform the country, both economically, politically, but also most crucially in terms of social cohesion. We do have to get rid of this inequality. We do have to get rid of apartheid spatial planning. We do have to start improving our skills and education. There's so much work we still have to do, and I hope that we have the stamina to carry it through. I think we do, but again, it will take some very genuine, honest conversations. We can't use the euphoria of positivity to just paper over a lot of the glaring problems we do see in our society that relate to economic challenges, that relate to class, that relate to gender in terms of femicide and all this, that relate to race, that relate to the young versus the old and the disconnect that we sometimes see there. There's a lot of things that we have to deal with. We're going to need to have the maturity to actually face them and not just cover them up with positivity. But that said, of course, I'm a South African. Like many other South Africans, I'm a sucker for hope, and so I need to be hopeful, and I am hopeful that this is a direction that is positive, that will lead us to something better, that will inspire all of us to re-engage with the narrative of our country and not just rely on politicians to save us all, but let us re-engage. Because listen, we have taken the arrogance out of a lot of these politicians. We've taken the wind out of a lot of them. And if they haven't learned their lesson, they will again in the next election. So we have showed them that South Africa is the one that has the final say. And because of that, I think hopefully that will encourage us to engage more with the narrative of our country so that we own it, we make it our own, not the politicians, not the markets, even though those influences are there, but we have to try to fight to make it our own. That's my biggest hope for this whole project at this stage. But hey, you don't have to take my word for it. I'm sure you can figure this out for yourself.